Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a CJRB double header. First up, we have the new Prado. This is a Ray Laconico design, and it comes in 4 different variations. The one you see here with the ebony wood, it's a very dark wood. It also comes in rosewood, which is a more reddish looking brown. You can also get it in black or aqua G10, and they all have this same satin finish on the blade. This is a larger EDC knife, coming in at 8.37 inches long with a 3.65 inch beautiful clip point blade. Ray Laconico does some beautiful clip points. Nice top swedge. This one has a good bit of meat behind that tip. Look at that. Look how stout that tip is on a clip point. The jimping up top is not super grippy. I'd call it moderate grippiness. The peaks are knocked off for some reason on this one. You do have a sharpening choil. However, I don't know if you can see that plunge line coming down right there. I don't know how many sharpenings you'll have before it'll start to widen up. I'd say maybe 1 or 2, but I wish they would have opened that up or brought the plunge line all the way back here. That would have been great. Got a blade hole for deployment. We'll talk about that later. This one has a mid-height flat grind. And like I said, you can see right there, it's pretty stout up there at the tip. This one comes down to around 18 thousandths behind the edge. However, it's sharpened at around 23 degrees per side. Let's see what it can do. Even though this one has a thick edge bevel, CJRB usually doesn't disappoint in the sharpness department. This one came screaming sharp, and it feels like it's got a bunch of bite. We'll definitely find that out later. But I like the longer blade. It makes doing the longer straight cuts easier. I didn't have any trouble sliding out of the cut because of that belly. But so far so good. Let's hope it doesn't struggle later on. Now we're testing the ergo, see how that edge wants to bite. And right away I can make the fine curls very, very easily because of that crisp edge. And we slowly start to increase that pressure. I can feel the scales kind of flexing in my hand, but I am squeezing them as hard as I can and putting as much pressure as I can just to see if we get any cracking or anything. So far so good. I think those stainless steel liners are really helping out in there. But if that's something that bothers you, I would probably go with the G10. It would also give you a little bit more traction. So right away I can feel the bite in this 1/2 inch sisal rope. I always love seeing that. The belly, of course, is going to make this very, very simple to do. I'm doing mainly push cuts right now, but you could do the push cut, sawing cut, pull through cut, pointer finger cut, whatever you feel like doing. You can see me swapping every now and again just so I can try to alleviate blisters on the fingers. But I'm blasting through it quickly, and I've always enjoyed their AR RPM9 steel. I mean, it's not mind-blowing, but I definitely think it's similar to 14C. As far as edge retention goes, you probably would not be able to tell the difference between the two unless you were doing a, test like this or a cardboard and you were doing it really, where you were not having too many variables. But I doubt it would be as tough as 14C because that's some pretty tough steel. But not something I really care about in my folders. And as you can see, I'm having to use that belly. You can kind of use that portion right behind the tip, but it's a pretty high tip, so it's a lot easier just to drag through with the belly. It's doing great through all this other stuff. Still has a good bit of bite to it, and the tubing wasn't that much of a problem. I did feel the drag in this dense cardboard. That is something that you usually feel whenever you have that thicker edge bevel. But the edge still feels great in the 10-ounce denim, and I'd say that was a really good job for the Prado. Now let's check out the edge. Got a few little small hang-ups, but not terrible. Now let's take a look at the action and deployment of this knife. It's a thumb hole deployer. It's a crossbar lock, so that's creating the tension. It's an excellent reverse flicker. You can also slow roll it if you want. And if you want to do the pinch, spotty drop, you can do that as well. One thing I'll say right off the back is, so far, every CJRB that I have that has a crossbar lock has the tension on those mega springs dialed in perfectly. It's not too strong, not too light. It takes a good bit to get that to come down like that. You can also pull that back and deploy it rather easily. Nice and smooth action because it's riding on ceramic ball bearings. So very good job with the action. Let's take a look at the handle area. You have a Torx T8 for your pivot, T8 for your 2 body screws, except for the pocket clip screws. Those are Torx T6, unfortunately. But I'm not as worried about the pocket clip screws because you don't have to take off the pocket clip when you take this apart. Flow through construction. You have 2 standoffs back here, and you have a little lanyard post, as you can see right there. If you're a lanyard person, they skeletonize this thing heavily. You have inset stainless steel liners in there. As you can see, you have tons and tons of skeletonization on the top and bottom. And one thing I noticed right off the back with these wood scales, being that you have all that milling done on the inside, even though you have those stainless steel liners, they do flex a little bit. Now, whenever I was doing the wood carving, I bared down as hard as I possibly could and squeezed as hard as I possibly could to see if I could crack these. But so far, so good. However, if that bugs you, I would definitely go with one of the G10 options. I would say those are a lot more rigid than the wood. The wood could also be a little slick. I haven't had any issues with it, but you know, it's also hot over here in Louisiana, so my hands are a little bit more grippy rather than in the wintertime when they're a little bit slicker. With all that skeletonization, it's bringing the weight to 3.11 ounces. That is awesome. Well under the ounce an inch. The lockup on my knife, no up and down, and I can muscle some side to side. I think it's just because of these scales, but I'm not worried at all that that's going to come disengaged. You have a deep carry tip-up pocket clip that is reversible. However, it's not inset into the frame. However, the edges are rounded over on the actual tab, and it sits all the way down into the pocket, as you can see. Blade is perfectly centered on mine, as you can see there. You have good access to those crossbar lock tabs right there. They got a little bit of texture on them. They're easy to grab a hold to. They're not uncomfortable, at least for my hands. Quick size comparison with the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. It's way more similar to the Rat 1. Very similar to the CJRB Large Pyrite and the Civivi Praxis. And last, we have the Syncut Glide Strike and the Civivi Sentinel Strike. Now, for my nitpicks and complaints, I think it would have been nice to have a little bit more rigidity in the scales. But like I said, the G10 ones would probably solve that for you. Like to have the pocket clip inset into the frame, and I think it'd been great to have this thinned out a little bit. Like I said, 18,000 behind the edge. However, it's like 23, 24 degrees per side, so pretty darn thick. Something I'll probably drop right after this review. But overall, I love the aesthetics of this one. Ray Laconico always does it for me. I love his designs. Next, we have the CJRB Bowie Pyrite, and this one seems to be a pretty popular one, at least in my comment section whenever I showed this one. I have the stonewashed stainless steel version with the pocketing in there, and I gotta say, I'm usually never a fan of the stainless steel handles, but they pocketed these out so well, and these just feel solid. A lot more solid than usually the G10 ones, but the action on these are great. So this one has that deep Bowie blade there, dual fullers on both sides. The jimping on this one's a lot more grippy than the Prado for some reason. I think it's because it's not rounded over on the top. And you can use those fullers for deployment. We'll talk about that in the deployment section. You have a large sharpening choil that should give you tons of sharpening light before to widen up in the back right here. You have a pretty needle-like point right there. Great for doing piercing tasks. This one has a beautiful raw stone wash finish on there. I love that. Nice top swedge to thin out that tip. You can get it in this variation, get it in an all black wash variation with the stainless steel scales. You can also get it with rosewood scales with, I think it's titanium bolsters if I'm not mistaken. And then they also have one with these same color ebony scales down here with the bolster on top. And all of them are $57. I think that's a good deal for the knife you're getting. These are all in the AR RPM9 stainless steel. That is CJRB's proprietary powdered metallurgy steel for a budget knife. And I think it's an excellent budget steel. It definitely hangs up there with 14C, at least the ones that I've tested, and I've tested a lot of it. I wouldn't be able to know the difference between the two. Maybe with like an impact or something really hard, maybe you might get some microchipping here before you would on the 14C, but I found this one holds an edge just as good almost. and it is a stainless steel. This Bowie Pyrite is a medium-sized EDC knife at 7.36 inches long with a 3.15 inch Bowie blade of, like I said earlier, AR RPM 9 stainless steel. Dual fullers on both sides. And we have that flat grind that comes down to around 18 thousandths behind the edge. And this one is sharpened at 19 degrees per side. So it should be a little slicier than the Prado. Let's find out. Man, I just thought the Prado was performing pretty darn good. This one is slicing very, very well. It does have better blade geometry than the Prado. And it may even be a hair sharper. I can't really tell yet. It feels like it, but I'll be able to know more whenever I'm cutting some of the rope and stuff like that. But so far, so good. The belly's not too crazy. Got enough straight edge portion. Testing the ergos. See how this edge wants to bite. And as you can see right away, it's wanting to peel it like an apple. Very, very crisp edge. And it was very comfortable. Whenever I started getting toward the end where I'm really pushing down as hard as I can, my pinky's landing on the little corner of the bottom of the scale. I'll try to talk about that during the after the testing, but it wasn't terrible, just something I could feel. Right away, I'm feeling that edge has excellent bite to it. And up there by the tip, I'm guessing it's a little bit thinner because it's passing through this half-inch thistle rope effortlessly. And you definitely have the perfect amount of belly to be able to cut on a flat surface very easily. This is going to be where this type of blade grind is going to shine. I'm not the biggest clip point fan anymore, especially, you know, whenever you got a higher tip like that. This one's not too egregious because that Bowie really dips down far, and it's about in the line, in the center of that pivot, but it's still hard, and we'll show that later. It's still hard to use that tip to do drag cuts, but we did great here. This knife and the Prado, we both did 100 cuts, and that's about where I stopped with the AR RPM 9 steel. It could have done more, but we had other tests to do. So as you can see, I'm not completely 90 degrees up in the air to use that tip, but it's a lot easier just to use that belly by the tip. And it's performing outstanding. I know I have it sped up, but it is blasting through all this material. The corner cardboard, absolutely no problem. You just got to watch where that tip goes when you're coming down. And the 10 ounce did them. Yeah, this knife did great. Very, very good job here. All right, let's see how that edge is. Got one little hang up right there and there. I'm guessing that's from the cardboard, and I've had that happen to me before with the AR RPM 9 steel. Now let's take a look at the deployment and action of this knife. You have thumb studs that are easily accessed, and they have some grip on them. So they're nice and comfortable. You can easily thumb flick it. If you want, you can reverse flick off those thumb studs, but I prefer just reverse flicking off that fuller. Very easy to do. You can also slow roll off that fuller as well, and you could do the Spidey drop with it also. Nice and smooth button lock action. Mine has a nice crisp break to it. And that's another thing I've noticed over the stainless steel ones compared to my G10 Pyrites, is that the break on the button lock seems to be a lot more crisp, and I like the sounds it makes. It just thwacks open whenever it comes open, and I love that. And it's nice and smooth because of the ceramic bearings in there. Take a look at the handle. Like I said, you got stone-washed stainless steel. Now, it is just flat scales, but they did a great job. Hopefully you can see that, of like rounding over. They did a chamfer, and then they kind of like rounded, softened all that. So these are really comfortable in hand. You have a Torx T8 for the pivot. Unfortunately, they went with T6 on the body screws for this one and the clip screws. Wish they would have went with T8 like the Prado, but oh well. You have a recess spot for the button so you don't accidentally disengage it. Tons of internal milling on the stainless steel, just like on the Prado. Then you have the two standoffs back here, and then the huge lanyard hole right there for the lanyard people. I must say, with all stainless steel scales, I'm pretty impressed at 3.82 ounces. Not bad at all. We have a deep carry reversible pocket clip, and it sits all the way down into the pocket. Ergos for me were nice and comfortable. I will say when I started really bearing down into the wood, I did notice this little spot is where this pinky lands, and when I'm putting a lot of pressure, it's pushing down on that spot. So I could feel it. It wasn't terrible, and that was only whenever I was putting all my effort into it. So the pocket clip stays out of the way of my palm. You have the perfect amount of ramp, I think. Yeah, they did a good job there. Let's check the lockup. Yeah, solid lockup. Quick size comparison with the original Pyrite and the alt Pyrite. The original Pyrite's a hair longer than the Bowie, and it's about identical in size to the alt Pyrite. Ontario Rat 1 and 2. And last we have the CJRB Lago and the CJRB Hectare. Now for my nitpicks and complaints, I would have loved to see T8 hardware throughout. I would have loved to see that clip inset just like on the Prado. But other than that, I think it's a very attractive looking design. I like the overall stone wash finish there. And I think the bolster ones look really nice as well. I know there's also a premium one coming down the line. I don't know when that one actually hits dealers, but so y'all let me know what y'all think about these two. I could recommend both of them. They're both nice knives. If you want something a little bit more stout, go with the Bowie, especially with those stainless scales. This is a very stout knife. You don't have to worry about that flexing on you at all. If you're into larger knives, go with the Prado. And like I said, if you're worried about the little bit of flex it has, just go with one of the G10 options. I think both designs are very, very attractive. I think I like the look of the Prado a hair more, but I like the size of the Bowie Pyrite a little more. I don't know. They're very, very close to me. If you like either one of these, I will have them linked both down in the description. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. And I will see y'all on the next one. Peace!